Good morning. Is that good? Good morning. Third time, excuse me. Welcome. Welcome to the physical and to the virtual home of Calgary Unitarians. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your journey of faith or your search for meaning, welcome. If you're visiting for the first time or the first time in a long while, know we are so grateful to have you with us. We come together in beloved community to grow in wisdom, to welcome and deepen relationships, and to act for a just and sustainable world. We start this morning and every time we gather by acknowledging that the land we're on and the peoples for whom this is their traditional territory give us the opportunity to be here on this land and to live the lives we live. The people of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Siksika, the Piikani, and the Kainai First Nations, the Tsuut'ina First Nation, and the Stoney Nakoda First Nation, comprised of the Chiniki, the Wesley, and the Bearspaw First Nations. And we remember that Mohkinstsis, the name that we now call Calgary, this place at the joining of the Bow and the Elbow Rivers, is also home to Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. So when we offer a land acknowledgement, we don't just acknowledge. We think about it, we feel it. We feel the land beneath our feet, and we feel the companionship of the First Nations who we hope forgive us for some of the things we've done. And we acknowledge that we're caretakers of this land. We have that duty under Treaty 7, the treaty under which we live, the treaty that was signed in September 22nd, 1877, down at Blackfoot Crossing. We acknowledge that treaties were entered into as a collaboration between settlers and Indigenous people, and that makes us all treaty people from now for forever. My name is Pamela Rickey, Pam for short. I'm the president this year. I have the honor of being president of the Board of Trustees. And I can say this morning what's so special to me right now in this moment is the fabulous 2 nights of cabaret that we've just had. Fabulous. I'm sure people will say more about that, but we just give our thanks to everyone who was involved in that. Please join us after the service here in the hall in Wickenden, just over 2 doors over. We'll have coffee and goodies. And for those of you on Zoom, please find the chat, in the chat, the link for the coffee room for people on Zoom. And please do go. It's fun. I've done it. There are some people who can't be here. Some people live at long distance, and some people who just can't come yet into congregations. So for you, those of you on Zoom, I encourage you to stay on for the coffee. We have 3 announcements. Next Sunday afternoon is going to be our budget town hall. So for new people, the following week, May 7th, will be our AGM, and we're going to approve our budget at that AGM. So next Sunday in the afternoon, we're going to gather, and our treasurer, Carol Yankee, is going to show us what we're proposing for a budget. And that's when you have the opportunity to have input and to ask questions and to discuss it thoroughly so that come the AGM, we can just pass it, hopefully. We're going to provide some food, but we're asking people to bring goodies to share, like desserts. So cookies, squares, whatever you like. Second announcement, on May 5th is Red Dress Day here in Calgary. So if you don't know what Red Dress Day is, you can look that up. That's a good research thing for you to do. Jocelyn Keith Asante is coordinating it, so you can talk to her. We want to string red dresses out on front of our building, right here on 16th Avenue. If we have enough, we'll put up a clothesline up on the building. If we don't have enough, we put them in the tree. But just go to your thrift stores and look for red dresses. You can bring red t-shirts. You can hopefully get them back afterwards. Otherwise, we'll keep them for next year. And Jocelyn has a whole lot of things, of activities for us to get involved in. So, and on the 7th, which is the day of our AGM, we can wear our red dresses. And then the last thing I want to say is we have a goddess at the back of the hall with flowers in her hair. And she has started a women's group. And the women gather on Tuesday evenings here downstairs and have fun together. That's it. No jobs.
That's Rachel.
Rachel. Thank you. So anybody who's interested could talk to Rachel or just show up on Tuesday. Thank you.
Thanks, Christian. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm Reverend Shelley Thompson. My pronouns are she and her, and I am so happy and excited to still be your interim minister for a little while yet. Makes me very happy to be here with all of you beautiful, amazing people. I'm savoring every minute. And I am so excited because Heidi Fosh is here today. Woo! Heidi is our friend who lives in Montana, and she drove all the way up here to go to Cabaret because she knew that was not to be missed. And since she's here, she decided to come on over to church. And she's known to many of us from coffee choir and online choir rehearsals during COVID. It's how she got to know us. And she's stayed with us. She comes to Vespers almost every week. And you're just so dear and beloved by so many of us, Heidi. And there again is a great example of why Zoom matters. We love you, Zoom people, because we can reach out and make friends in places that we didn't know we had friends, like Montana, right? And we're so excited that you're here, Heidi. It's great to have you with us in person today. Any other visitors who want to wave or say hello this morning? That's an option if you feel brave and would like to. Anybody? Hi, good morning. Do you want to say her name for us? Monica. Monica's here. Hi, Monica. Welcome. We're so glad you're with us. So coffee hour is a good time to also get to know people and to learn more about us, to ask questions and all those good things. This is a pretty friendly bunch around here, so please don't be shy about getting in there and talking about why you've come and what's going on with you and making friends right off the bat. And thank you to Pam for our announcements and getting all of that cleared up for us. And today, I am going to light our chalice for us. This is our symbol of community and our beacon of hope. The flaming chalice has been with us since World War II, when it was invented as a symbol to help people flee from the Nazis. We needed official-looking paperwork, and the chalice was invented to be our symbol that would let people know that we were the safe people who were going to help them get the heck out of there. And then it became put into wide use in our congregations in the 80s by the children and the women of Unitarian Universalism who were teaching the kids all about it, and they wanted to have real live examples to show. And now, for me, it's one of our most beloved rituals that we do every time we gather. And our chalice lighting words, we light our chalice here, and then we also light our wonderful rainbow chalice that Sheila's going to take down to be with our children today as they do their worship in the form of their lessons. She'll tell us more about that. Our words are from Reverend Suzelle Lynch. The fire of love burning deep in every human heart calls us to awaken. Awaken to the work of justice. Awaken to the work of compassion. Awaken to the work of community. For this time of human suffering and exaltation, we are called beyond awakening into action. May the chalice flame we now light guide our hearts in service to the greater good that holds all living things in its holy embrace. Let us worship together. Please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing Rising Green.
My blood doth rise in the roots of yon oak. Her sap doth run in my veins. Boundless my soul like the open sky, where the stars forever have lain. where the stars, where the stars, where the stars forever have lain. My hands are weavings of time without end, my sight as deep as the sea. Beating my heart sounds the measures of old, that of love's eternity. That of love, that of love, that of love's eternity. I feel the tides as they answer the moon, rushing on a far distant sand. Winging my song is the wind of my breast, and my love blows over the land. And my love, and my love, and my love blows over the land. My foot carries days of the old into new. Our dreaming shows us the way. Wondrous our faith settles deep in the earth, rising green to bring a new day. Rising green, rising green, rising green to bring a new day.
I'm stealing Christian's microphone. I'll give it back later. It's okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sheila McMaster, Director of Religious Education here at the Calgary Unitarians, and my pronouns are she and her. And I'm so excited to be here celebrating Earth Day with all of you. Woo! That's right. And to kick it off, I have some Earth Day jokes, of course. Here's one. If I ride my bike twice, does that count as recycling? What do trees feel on Earth Day? Relief. All right, now we're getting a little edgy, into my edgy jokes. All right. How many climate skeptics does it take to change a light bulb? None. They'd rather live in the dark. All right, here's my next one. What do you get when you cross an environmentalist with direct action? Arrested. We are people of protest, right? All right, and what is the dirtiest word an environmentalist knows? Pollution. But I heard dirt out here. That's a pretty good dirty word too. Dirt. All right, so with the children and youth today, we're exploring how to reduce our environmental impact through upcycling. So many of you know that recycling is when you take something old and you break it down and you make something new, and upcycling is when you take it as it is and you create something fantastic. So some ideas we have is like this, let me think, what do we got here? We've got making bug houses for your backyard. You can use toilet paper rolls for that. You can use like a plastic bottle, and you just got to put in some like older materials like some moss and some leaves and have it a few feet off the ground, and then in the winter just put it like in a shed and the bugs will hang out there, and in the summer put it out. So bug hotels, yes, attract beneficial species to your yard. You can also make a toy car garage. I've seen this one. You put toilet paper rolls up and you park your little cars inside. I'm like, yeah, that one's really cute. Another one, and these are all in this week's Children and Youth newsletter. So if you haven't subscribed, email me, dre@calgaryunitarians.ca, and I'll hook you up. But you can use old magazines to make a beautiful art bowl for, you can use it for fruit or in your living room. This one's really nice, so I recommend that one. That one's a lot of fun. So we have so many supplies for the kids today, and we're gonna go down and just explore and feels like, what's our creative juices telling us to make this week? So you just might be surprised. And I will do a shout out to Heather Walker. She's the one who came up with this idea of upcycling for us every year, and she is one of my best upcycling donators. So thank you, Heather. And as part of our Earth Day celebrations, of course, I have a story for all of you. Some of you may have heard it. I read it a few years ago, but it's so perfect for today. And it's about one little boy doing small things to make a big impact on his community. All right, here we go. And it is called The Curious Garden by Peter Brown. There once was a city without gardens or trees or greenery of any kind. And most people spent their time indoors, and as you can imagine, it was a very dreary place. And however, there was one boy who loved being outside, even on drizzly days. And while everyone was staying inside, you could always find Liam happily splashing through his neighborhood. I'm just switching mics. Oh, good. That one had an echo. I don't know, is this one better? Okay, good. Maybe. You've made the wrong choice, Sheila. Okay. I was just hearing an echo. Okay. So, however, there was a boy who loved being outside. And it was on one such morning that Liam made several surprising discoveries. He was wandering around the old railway, and as he did from time to time when he stumbled upon a dark stairwell leading up to the tracks. The railway had stopped working ages ago, and since Liam had always wanted to explore the tracks, there was only one thing for a curious boy to do. Liam ran up the stairs and pushed open the door and stepped out onto the railway. And the first thing he saw was a lonely patch of color. Wildflower and plants were the last thing he'd expected to find up there. But when he took a closer look, it became clear that the plants were dying, and they needed a gardener. Liam may not have been a gardener, but he knew he could help. So he returned to the railway the very next day and got to work. And the flowers nearly drowned, and he had a few pruning problems, but the plants patiently waited while Liam found a better way of gardening. And as the weeks rolled by, Liam began to feel like a real gardener. And then the plants began to feel like a real garden. And most gardens stay in one place, but this was no ordinary garden. With miles of open railway ahead of it, the garden was growing restless, and it wanted to explore. And the tough little weeds and mosses were the first to move, and they popped up farther and farther down the tracks, and they were closely followed by the more delicate plants. And over the next few months, Liam and the Curious Garden explored every corner of the railway. And after spending his spring and summer and autumn with the garden, Liam's time on the railway was finally interrupted by winter. And heavy blankets of snow fell on the city that season, and for the first time since he'd become a gardener, Liam could not visit the plants. Rather than waste his winter worrying about the garden, Liam spent it preparing for spring. And after 3 cold months, 6 if you live in Canada, the snow finally began to melt, and Liam rolled his new gardening gear over to the railway. And winter had taken a toll on the garden. But thanks to Liam's planning and his handy new tools and a little help from the sun, the plants soon awoke from their winter sleep. And the garden had always wanted to explore the rest of the city, and that spring it was finally ready to make its move. And once again, the tough little weeds and mosses set out first, and they popped up farther and farther from the railway, and they're closely followed by the more delicate plants. And the garden was especially curious about old and forgotten things. And a few plants popped up where they didn't belong. And others mysteriously popped up all at once. But the most surprising thing that popped up were the new gardeners. And many years later, the entire city had blossomed, but of all the new gardens, Liam's favorite was where it had all begun. The end. And so this week's challenge for all of you is to think about where you can invest your love for others and for the earth. And as the Dalai Lama says, if you think you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. And now please join me as we sing the children downstairs for some upcycling.
I love that story. It reminds me, I actually upcycled the original organ bench from this church. It was in the minister's office when I got here, and it looked horrible. All the varnish was flaking, and it was in a terrible state. So I took it home, and I refinished it, and now it's this wonderful coffee table that's really beautiful and exciting. So that's my little upcycling souvenir from Calgary Unitarians. I've got the organ bench, and boy, does it look good. I'll bring you some pictures. I'll put some on the web. Well, now is the time when we light our candles of care and concern, and we share with one another all of the things that are just too important not to share. As a loving, caring community, we want to be present with one another in all the ups and downs of life, the good news, the bad news, everything in between news, the things that keep us awake at night, and the things that bring us great joy and help us savor this wonderful world that we live in together. So we always light a candle for all the joys, all the good news, things like cabaret. Oh my gosh, it was amazing and inspiring and beautiful and wonderful. Who went to cabaret this weekend? Woo, it was fabulous, wasn't it? Yeah, woo. And of course, we're grateful for good friends like Heidi and all those of you who are newcomers and learning all about us and participating and sharing our community with us. And we light a candle for the sorrows. We know at any time we have lots of folks who are dealing with medical issues, health problems that are chronic, sorrows in their families, concerns of all kinds, of a personal nature, things that we keep in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts maybe, but that we know we can come to this place and be held in love and kindness and compassion, because we know that everybody is on a journey with ups and downs and difficult things. We all hurt and we all suffer. We all need one another to help us get through this thing called life. And so we also light a global candle because we know that this is true for people everywhere, the world over. We all need love and kindness, compassion, and support. We know that there's so many things going on in planet Earth. We hear the bad news all the time. We help to remind ourselves of the good news sometimes that we'll talk about today, that people really are doing a lot to help each other and help our world. And this is a tradition that a lot of you churches have. I got this candle out for Easter, but a lot of churches also light a peace candle. And I thought, well, while it's here, we're going to put this one to use as our peace candle, if I can get it to light. World peace is a difficult thing to achieve. It's not an easy task, world peace. So it takes a while to light this one sometimes. There we go. Oh, we pray for peace, and we know that peace includes environmental protection and sustainability and looking toward the future, doing what we need to do, all of us together, to keep this world beautiful and green and alive and well for future generations. We are all a part of that on Earth's lifeboat. And now you may come forward and light candles of your own or place stones into our collective holding bowl. And we are going to sing today another Carolyn McDade song, "Oh Beautiful Gaia."
beautiful Gaia, oh Gaia, calling us home. Oh, beautiful Gaia, calling us home. Soil yielding its harvest, oh Gaia, calling us home. Soil yielding its harvest, calling us on. Oh, beautiful Gaia, oh Gaia, calling us home. Oh, beautiful Gaia, calling us on. Loon nesting in marshland, oh Gaia, calling us home. Loon nesting in marshland, calling us on. Oh, beautiful Gaia, oh Gaia, calling us home. Oh, beautiful Gaia, calling us home.
Beautiful. We love our dynamic duo, Christian and Jane over here. So beautiful. We love our Carolyn McDade, don't we? Ooh, good songs. And I'm reminded for Earth Day, there's a doxology. Some of you may remember that word if you ever went to Christian church. But there's one written, they changed the words for us for you, and I love the words. It says, "For all who dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung, in every land, by every tongue." As UUs who value reason and the results of science, most of us agree that climate crisis is real, global warming is real, and humans are the cause, and humans are the ones we have to count on to work on the solutions together, to eliminate the use of fossil fuels and create just and sustainable solutions. And sadly, we know we have to work faster. We need to do it together globally. Here at home, for the most part, we know that Canada's heart's in the right place. A lot of good is happening, and we know that decision makers and governments and individuals need to be pushed in the right direction. Canada has participated in those Paris Accords from 2015 and the Glasgow Convention from 2021, working to get us to net zero greenhouse gas emissions. This is the key to stopping global warming before it gets to 1.5 degrees centigrade globally. That's what we've determined is the cutoff point, that if we don't stop it before then, we're going to experience some really bad effects that we don't want. And right now we're sitting at 1.1 degrees. So we need to turn this around quickly. And our climate scientists are telling us that we need to reduce our emissions by up to 43% before 2030. That means we need to make this peak hit before 2025 and start going down the other way. So these net zero emissions goals are really challenging. And there's about 90 countries that have committed to that are responsible for over 80% of our emissions. But it is so hard to move fast. It's really hard to move fast. So that's the situation we're in. There's tons of information about this. I brought an article today that comes to us from the World Resources Institute that explains what does the net zero emissions mean, what's the situation, what's going on. And I'll have copies of that out in the lobby for you to look at. And they made a beautiful chart that explains how globally there are 10 key solutions to mitigating climate change. And they help us understand that these are systemic issues. These are things that are beyond any one of us to fix, or any one of us, no matter how hard we try to live sustainably, just us living sustainably, we also have to change these big, big systems if we're really going to reach these goals. So, because all by ourselves, we can't make enough of a difference if we don't also get to these net zero emissions goals. But living sustainably, of course, is something we're going to need to do forever. So the more we can practice that and encourage one another, the better. But it's a good chart because it does help us recognize the interdependence we have with these large systems, and that we can and do make an impact as consumers, as voters, as people who care about the world. And we know that change is hard. We know we have to help each other. We know that our individual choices aren't going to fix the whole thing, but for that reason, we don't want to go around guilting people for eating a hamburger or driving a car. We know we're all a part of the issues, and nobody's perfect, and we all do what we can. So really pressuring people to do exactly the way you do it isn't going to be very helpful. Trying to guilt people into making them think that they're the reason why the world is ending, well, that's not helpful. We don't want to scare people or make them defensive or make them feel like somehow the weight of the world is on their shoulders. That's just not particularly useful when it comes to helping one another be in sustainable community. So in the interpersonal realm, yes, our votes absolutely matter, and our lifestyle choices and our interactions with other humans matter. This is our wheelhouse as Unitarian Universalists. We're all about covenant and good relationships with one another. And so, as people of faith, we want to live these values, and we know that living those values really does make a difference. We value love. We value justice. We value equity. We value our interdependence and the earth. You may remember these as values named in our new Article 2 proposed reframing of our principles into values and covenant. Climate change is a great example of why we want to do that reframing for ourselves, so that we can talk about these things effectively everywhere we go and live our values in a way that help us match up our intentions and our impact in the world around us. It sets us up for success to think of our values and our promises to one another. Climate change is a great example because it matters to our quality of life, to our sense of agency as human beings, and to our commitment to enhancing the common good, to working on collective liberation. How each and every one of us prays that prayer every day really does matter. And this goes well beyond politics. We need to say this. Political activism is just one type of work that involves advocating for our values, speaking up about climate change, for instance. Yes, our votes matter, and our interactions with our lawmakers and decision makers matter. And we have a climate and environmental justice group right here in our community that loves this work and gets right in there bravely and speaks truth to power. Thank you for that. We love that about ourselves, that we have members of our community that do this good work. But there is an unfortunate tendency in Unitarian Universalist circles to conflate living our values with this term, social justice, which then people falsely interpret as political activism, as though that's the one and only way to live your values, or the one and only thing that constitutes social justice. Like it's a separate island over there. And just those few 5 or 10 people that want to do that, they go and do that. And whatever that means, the refugee political activists, the climate political activists, those kinds of groups within us. And we have a lot of those amazing people who have that luxury and that ability and that passion, and we're so grateful for it. But it can lead to this either-or feeling in Unitarian Universalism. It can divide us, because I hear people making that mistake and just thinking it's political activism that helps us live our values. and that counts as being good UUs in this area. And that just simply isn't the case. I hear the guilt trip happen once in a while that people put onto themselves and to others about their participation in political activism as the only thing that you can do to make a difference. Especially our parents of young children and our elders fall into this category of feeling left out when we only speak about living our values in terms of political action. So we don't want to do that anymore. We want to really widen our own circle and understand for ourselves what it means. We are a people of faith who live our values every day, all the time, in everything we do, in every way that we serve this community, in every way that we show up, in every way that we're willing to have tough conversations and make personal choices that help us make the world a better place. We all do social justice all the time. We want to remember that. And in fact, aside from voting, politics is probably the arena where we are least likely to make a difference because of the toxic and divisive state of affairs right now. By making things political, people have dodged the issues. They use that as an excuse not to pay any attention or to say, well, I don't believe you, and make it an argument or a debate. That's just copping out, frankly. And we know that we're in an uphill battle where that's concerned. And yes, that happens in Canada too. It's not just the Americans. So our personal choices and the way we live our lives really do matter. This is core to our Unitarian Universalist faith. We're humanists at our core. We believe in human agency and human goodness and the power of community to transform lives. And so it matters that we do the right thing to help create a more sustainable future. And as we change our own lifestyles to be more sustainable and green, we model that for other people. We have the power to inspire and encourage and support one another and the wider community to do the same thing. And so it gives us agency, it helps us. And there's tons of examples. If you want a nice long list of all the different things you can do to lower your carbon footprint and be more sustainable, there's lots of those lists on the internet. One of the things that happens in Calgary that I'm very proud of is that there's a whole system in place for food rescue. The supermarkets and restaurants participate in trying not to waste food by giving it to the food bank and other food charities that provide it then to people who are most in need. This is amazing. This is a great thing that our city is doing. Because food waste, if it were its own country, is the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases, right? If it were its own country. So Calgary's working on that. That's a really good thing to know. There's good news, my friends. Well, climate scientists and all these change experts, they tell us loud and clear, the very best thing we can do about changing the world is to talk about climate change. Talk about it. People don't talk about it very much. They're afraid of it. It makes them nervous. They don't know what to say. They're afraid it's going to be a fight. We need to talk about it. We can make good use of all of our connections and interactions, every sphere of influence, all of our areas of interest. Marianne Louise can talk to the knitters. People can talk to all the groups they belong to. Start where you live. Connect with people over what they love. Start there. Person to person, heart to heart. We all matter and can and do make a difference in these conversations. Again, there's so many facts online, and I brought this article about, well, what do you say? What do you talk about? How do you explain this to people? Lots of good advice about that. But it's our ability and our willingness to have difficult conversations that really matters. This is our wheelhouse, people. We talk about human sexuality with our kindergartners. We talk about religion. We talk about politics. We're brave people. As Sister Simone Campbell told us, we're the people who are most likely to walk toward trouble. And by that we mean the good trouble that U.S. Representative John Lewis was talking about when he says, go find yourself some good trouble. Go make good trouble. Some of us think of ourselves as spiritual first responders. to our own lives and to the people we care about, to the world around us, this crazy mixed up world that's so worthy of saving. And there are so many organizations now that are offering very consistent advice on how to talk about climate change. And I read through a whole bunch of these websites. One that I love is from Canadian scientist David Suzuki, the David Suzuki Foundation. Lots of great resources there. The World Resources Institute, the source of that article that I brought to share with you. They have trackers and all kinds of fascinating information on there. The Nature Conservancy is another one. There's the Nature Conservancy Canada and the one in the United States. They're all over the world. And believe it or not, there's a whole bunch of organizations that specialize. Their job, they go around the world helping organizations and people have these conversations. There's one called C for Climate, Sea Change Conversations. They specialize in talking to moderate and conservative groups of people about climate change. There's one called Climate Outreach. Listen to them. They say, we exist because climate change doesn't communicate itself, even with the increasing number of climate impacts. We have to help people understand this complex issue in ways that resonate with their sense of identity, values, and worldview. Informed consent and support from people across society and around the world creates what we call a social mandate for climate action. And we believe it's how real change happens. The group Client Earth uses legal advocacy. They say we use the power of law to bring about systemic change that protects the earth for and with its inhabitants. We change the system from within, working with instead of against its most powerful players. And we give people and partners and organizations the tools they need to do the same. Talk about climate change. That's exciting to me. I love this. I've also been reading Katharine Hayhoe's book. She's a Canadian climate scientist and expert. Her book is called Saving Us, A Climate Scientist's Case for Hope and Healing in a Divided World. She's a Canadian, but she's also an evangelical Christian who lives in Texas. She knows something about talking to people who oppose her views. So what advice do all these awesome people have for us as everyday citizens who are not necessarily political activists, but who are brave enough to broach a difficult subject? How do we have effective conversations? Well, we know about active listening. Any of you who've participated in covenant circles or theme-based listening circles, chalice circles, we know how to do this. This is something that we're good at because we value right relationship. We want to listen actively, really hear what people are saying. We're listening for understanding, not for debate. We're listening, we're connecting, and we're sharing. And we're with the understanding that we love each other, we connect to one another, and when we share and show up genuinely in these deeper ways, wow, beautiful things happen in our understanding of our human condition and our way of relating to one another in the world around us. We grow, and we're transformed by it. It's very powerful. And so we're especially gifted at this, and it's something we want to confidently share, even on the topic of climate change, right? So connect from your heart, find common ground, discover common values, and find the things that already matter to people. We already care, because climate impacts affect everything we say and do. So we know that people already care about things in their own lives that are affected by climate change. That's a basis for a conversation. David Suzuki's site tells us, what are some topics to find common ground? Well, we want a promising future for our kids and future generations. We care about that. We want to be prepared for and protected from the impacts of extreme weather events. Who's experienced one of those? Right? We've all experienced some of that. We want to be healthy and have clean air to breathe and clean water to drink. We know this is an issue the world over. It's important to us. We want good, stable, well-paying jobs and economic security in a changing world. A lot of people care about that, right? And we care about nature and wildlife and the health of local and global ecosystems. We take tremendous wisdom from our indigenous communities and the Métis people who understand about sustainable living and honoring the land and the environment all around us. So every person has interests and personal experience and stories. We all have stories about all of these things and why they matter to us. And then we can talk about real-world solutions. What are people doing that's really working? What are you doing in your own life that's really working? And then you can genuinely share why it really matters to you. Catherine said there was an example of a gentleman who was an absolute climate denier, even though he was a scientist. And she couldn't get through to him, and she gave up, and she was so frustrated. And then later on, he saw her knitting needles, and he says, I knit too. And you know what? In my family, we only make gifts, and we only upcycle, and we have a sustainable living practice. And she went, oh my gosh, I would so much rather that you live sustainably and totally disagree with the science. That's so much more important. I don't care that you disagree with me about the science or the numbers. I love that you already have the values and the example of sustainable living in your family. So that's exciting. And Catherine says this, the world is changing, but it isn't changing fast enough. Too often we picture this problem as a giant boulder sitting at the bottom of the hill. You all remember Sisyphus from Greek mythology. And it seems like there's only a few hands on it trying to roll it up the hill. But in reality, the boulder's at the top of the hill with hundreds of millions of hands, maybe even billions of hands on it, pushing it down. It's just not going fast enough. So how do we speed up the giant boulder so we can fix climate change in time? You guessed it, the number one way, talk about it. The bottom line is this, climate change is affecting you and me right here and right now in the places where we live, but by working together, we can fix it. Sure, it's a daunting problem. Nobody knows that more than climate scientists, but we can't give in to despair. We have to go out and actively look for the hope that we need that will inspire us to act. And that hope begins with a conversation today. Client Earth says we should ask open questions. Reframe the issue to connect over what people care about. Tell a convincing story. Know your stuff, all your facts and figures, and keep calm. Don't turn it into a debate. So you can see there's that consistent advice all across the board, the things we've learned about how we can best connect with one another over divisive issues. And Climate Earth says, by speaking up for the planet, you're helping shift the global conversation toward making change happen. And change is happening. Actions being taken at every level, global, national, corporate, and individual. And it's important to remember that, especially when you feel overwhelmed or hopeless. I discovered in my research, Netflix has a zero emissions goal for themselves as a corporation. And they've changed the way they do on-set filming to getting rid of diesel generators in favor of electric generators and electric vehicles. And they're doing wonderful things to achieve their net zero goals as a corporation. Hayhoe shared in her book that contemporary theorists like George Marshall explained the power of this good communications approach. Caring about and acting on climate change enables us to be an even more authentic version of who we already are. Being a loving parent or an avid conservationist or a savvy business person or a defender of your country or a devout believer. It isn't only consistent with climate action. Such action gives you a new opportunity to better express through your words and actions who and what you care about. That's us, right? That's a you thing. We can get on board with this. It's how we connect and build bridges of mutual understanding and collective liberation. Hayhoe advocates for the practice of active hope. She says real hope doesn't usually come knocking on the door of our brains uninvited. We have to roll up our sleeves and go look for it. And if we do, chances are we'll find it. And she says that's what she does. She says, I make a practice of hope. I search for and collect and share stories of good news about people who are making a difference, about tech innovations like solar fabric, solar glass I learned about. They make solar bricks. You can build buildings and they can be energy independent buildings. There are floating solar farms on flooded open pit coal mines in China. Did you know that? How cool. People are so clever. River-powered energy in remote Arctic villages. So many more. I discovered there's a whole bunch of people making things out of mycelia, out of mushrooms. They can make vegan leather out of mushrooms. It's awesome. People are so smart and clever. She tells us that she participates in events and partners with organizations that share her values and promote advocacy and action. Does that sound familiar? That sounds like us, right? She says, I offer them what I have. It might be my expertise or my time or a donation or my skill. And she says, I look to my faith. So can we too look to our faith, my dear ones, and to one another to help us practice active hope and share that light with the world. Blessed be. Amen. Ashe. Now is the time when we share our gifts of financial support to this community that we call home, this place where we gather to learn and grow and help one another with life's most difficult challenges like climate change. And we so appreciate your gifts of support that make it possible for us to carry on. And we know we are committed to carrying on. COVID is not going to stop us. We're carrying on. And our four others this month is Skipping Stone, that wonderful organization that advocates and provides care and connection for our trans and gender diverse children, families, and youth all across Calgary. And it's a cause that's near and dear to our hearts because it's a part of our community and who we are. We love Skipping Stone. Now, as the ushers come forward to take your offerings, and we know a lot of you give online, we appreciate that. We don't see that happening, but we know it's happening. We're going to sing Mother Earth, Beloved Garden.
Mother Earth, beloved garden, living treasure underfoot. All our days you ground our being, sage and thistle, grass and root. Herbs to heal us, plants to feed us, land to till and tend and plow. With the pendant deep as midnight north, we ask you be here now. Father, where your inspiration holds together all that lives. As we breathe, our minds see clearly, leading us to love and give. Raging whirlwind, whispered breezes, violent gale and gentle cloud. With the blade as sharp as morning east, we ask you be here now. Brother fire, great transformer, share the passion of the sun. In our hearts your warmth revives us, cooks our food and heats our home. Flaming candle, blood within us, blazing desert will to grow. With the wand directing power south, we ask you be here now. Sister water ever flowing, ocean, river, pond and rain, drink we now and quench our thirsting, cleanse as we begin again. Mist and ice, a host of changes, all that courage will allow. With the cup, the holy chalice, rest we ask you be here now. Lover, spirit, intuition, in the center of our souls. In your love we find relation, all connected we are whole. Nameless mystery, quiet, conscious, deepest values, voice inside. With the drum and with the cauldron, this we ask you be our guide.
I love it. We extinguish the chalice from a prayer from the Northern Utah people. Earth, teach me stillness as the grasses are stilled with light. Earth, teach me suffering as old stones suffer with memory. Earth, teach me humility as blossoms are humble with beginning. Earth, teach me caring as the mother who secures her young. Earth, teach me courage as the tree which stands alone. Earth, teach me limitation as the ant which crawls on the ground. Earth, teach me freedom as the eagle which soars in the sky. Earth, teach me resignation as the leaves which die in the fall. Earth, teach me regeneration as the seed which rises in the spring. Earth, teach me to forget myself as melted snow forgets its life. Earth, teach me to remember kindness as dry fields weep in the rain. And now we will invite everyone once again to join us for coffee hour in Wickenden. And to those of you on Zoom, our dear ones, we love you and we invite you to join Coffee Chat. That link will be provided for you in your box. And we are going to sing, of course, it's Earth Day. What are we going to sing? Blue Boat Home. Oh yeah. Rise in body or spirit for some Blue Boat Home.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port I have known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun my sail and moon my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in a beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port I have known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my